So I'm so excited to introduce my next guest, who is a beautiful person inside and out, and she elevates beauty and wellness in other people's lives, empowering and lifting others up. I love what you do. Her name is Whitney. Whitney, why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself and how they're able to reach you on social media?
Yeah, my name is Whitney Kutch, and I go by on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'm Hello Whitney XO. My website is hellowhitney.com, and I am a lifestyle blogger, influencer. I don't like to niche myself. I don't like to use the word influencer, but that's what people are saying nowadays. But I like to focus on the story behind why I put together a fashion look, or the story of how I'm really feeling that day. My blog started out as just life, like fashion, and just very outfit oriented at first. But then as time progressed, I felt more comfortable with ripping off the mask of perfection, because let's admit it, that doesn't exist. And as I started to uncurate my life more, that reaction and the acceptance and the community I was building really was motivating to keep doing it. So I'm still on that path of leaping from the safe zone to the raw zone, which you're helping me do.
Well, and you're doing really well, and that's one of the things I have to say is that part of what attracted me to the work that you're doing is that you were willing to put yourself out there and explain that you were struggling with some different things of anxiety, some sleep issues, and that's kind of where we came to meet. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about your journey from as a child to now, your challenges with airway, some of the things that we've talked about with airway that maybe you wish your mom back then would have known, or that you would have known at some point earlier.
Or a doctor.
What you know now, or the doctors that you interacted with, yes.
So, okay, won't be chronological, but I'm going to answer your questions that you just asked in the most logical way that makes sense to explain. So I've had problems sleeping for, 20 years. At least, probably longer than that. And during this pandemic, times have been even more stressful. And so my sleep was at the all-time worst. And I just remember being on Instagram and furiously searching, sleep nurse, sleep RN, like really trying to find and connect with someone that could help me with my sleep. That's just what I was looking for. And so I found you randomly on Instagram. We connected, and my sole reason was to see what you could offer in terms of just helping me sleep. And we obviously hit it off. I just felt comfortable with you. And throughout speaking with you, really the first time I started speaking with you, you started asking me about what kind of surgeries I'd had. And so, again, because I just felt, rapport is so important whenever you're talking about sleep or anything personal. I opened up to you and found out with your knowledge that a jaw surgery I had when I was 17 years old had contributed to not only sleep, but was also woven in with like my depression and anxiety. And the conversations that we had when I found out that like all this was tied together was such an epiphany to me that it's really had this cause and effect of even taking, like I'm rebranding currently right now on my blog, like trying to even more weave in my story about depression and how I had this surgery, life-altering surgery that changed the way I looked, as well as what it was supposed to do was change the way my jaw system, worked with my the upper respiratory part of my face. But I had no idea when I was 17 years old it was going to change the way I looked. And that was, I guess, icing on the cake. But as you and I have talked about, it's kind of been it's a blessing and a curse in some ways. So I just want to first thank you for kind of opening my eyes to how my history is all tied together medically.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, understanding the why is so important. I think there's nothing more frustrating than having all of these symptoms or having diagnoses without understanding why. Like, why is this happening? How did I get to this point? And I've had similar experiences, so I know what you're talking about. Having surgery that corrects things aesthetically with no consideration to what it's doing to you functionally. So you had that surgery when you were 17, and then you had one later on, correct?
Yes. Well, I had, so the tongue clipping, is that what you're talking about? Okay. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't really, what's interesting about this is this was not an invasive surgery at all, not like the jaw surgery. It was something that a random dentist just suggested, because I had that, what is it called, that goes from...
Yes, you had like the frenum there, a frenectomy, or when they, a tongue tie, where they just cut that tether.
That's right. So the web of my tongue went all the way to the end of my tongue, and I had lived with it for so long. I really didn't have a speech impediment, so it was, I guess, hard to diagnose, from some people. So a dentist was like, I can clip that. Well, I had gone for 19, 20 years of my life living like that, and not breathing correctly, not putting my tongue in the right position like we discussed, and so it really affected a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you hit on something. You said, we all just want to know why. It's like, I can handle, sometimes when we get the diagnosis of what's wrong with us, even if it's really bad, it just makes everything make sense. It's like, I'm not crazy. It's not in my head. It was actually something that was physiologically wrong with me as well. So
yep.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know when we were speaking and we start going through the checklist of, if you have this, then this is what it manifests like. And I could tell your face, you were just like, exactly. It's like a provider should be able to look at your structure, look at the function, and tell you how that makes you feel. Whereas I feel like sometimes we have to try to convince people this is how we're feeling. And then it's just kind of an airy-fairy thing of, well, you're feeling this way, you should probably go talk to somebody. But you cannot talk people out of something that is happening physiologically, right?
Exactly.
So you had the tongue released, but there wasn't any work done to retrain the tongue to function properly.
Exactly. So here I was getting major, the jaw surgery, which was so major. It was actually called, I believe, the Lafort procedure is like the old school term for it, upper and lower. It was such a major jaw surgery. And then, of course, the tongue later. So that was fixed mechanically, I guess would be the best, analogy. Yeah. But never functionally was I taught to, like you would go to a physical therapist after a surgery to fix someone's back, let's say. There was no kind of physical therapy for speaking or breathing or anything. And really, here I am, 43 years old, and meeting you. It's the first time that I've actually had access to someone that said, okay, here are some exercises you can do. And I can actually start to see a difference in it, sleep. It's just amazing. It's, once again, if you're open to learning, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late to start learning from one another.